Hello, Mr. Jonah. Is it Mascati?
Oh yes. Yeah. Where did you learn that language?
I had
Okay,
to.
we're rolling. We're on YouTube.
That's encouraging.
Okay.
Yes,
Ladies and
yes.
gentlemen, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So, yes, Mr. Jonah, welcome again, Mascati. It's a pleasure to have this opportunity to have a conversation with you. And for those who are now joining, welcome to the Africa Chamber of Digital Commerce Virtual Roundtable on Trade and Investment Opportunities in Africa, spotlighting Zimbabwe. Today, we get an opportunity to discover the tremendous potential and emerging opportunities that Zimbabwe presents. This roundtable brings together industry experts, government officials, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders to discuss and analyze the current trade and investment climate in Zimbabwe, with a specific focus on leveraging digital technologies. And again, I say welcome, Mr. Jonah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving us the opportunity. We really appreciate.
Yes, and just to give a quick synopsis on what to expect for our guest today, we have a keynote speech by Mr. Jonah, where he's going to take us through, I'm sure, a slide, but if not, he's going to start off with a keynote speech. And then from there, we get to have a panel discussion exploring trade opportunities in Zimbabwe. And then afterwards, we're going to have questions and Q&A going on. And then from there, an interactive Q&A. So the first part would just be for Mr. Jonah. And then from there, we'll be able to have a more concise conversation with our audience as well. So the floor is yours, Mr. Jonah.
Okay. Thank you so much, you, and thank you for all the listeners for taking time to listen to what we have to offer as a country in terms of our potential, the economic trajectory of the country, and where we are heading. I must say that my presentation is going to provide or give an overview in terms of the investment landscape in Zimbabwe, so that you are better informed when you want to make your investment decision. And I must say that although this presentation, by and large, is targeted to the audience around the world, the presentation is being made from Zim Embassy in Washington, D.C., and I am going to elaborate to say that this post is a new creation by the government of Zimbabwe, which is basically meant to strengthen the trade and investment activities between Zimbabwe and USA, driven by the fact that both countries, they do have a lot of potential. There are a lot of opportunities, a lot of synergies that can be built around that. So this is primarily my function. So my position here is at the level of what is called a Minister Councillor, responsible for trade and investment. And my responsibility here at the embassy is to focus on mainly three pillars, which is the economic pillar, the trade pillar, and the investment pillar. So under the economic pillar is to give the trajectory in terms of the economic developments, and also under the trade promotion, my job is to assist the US companies who are sourcing products from Zimbabwe by identifying potential suppliers for US importers. And at the same time, also assist, should US companies be able to visit Zimbabwe, we facilitate those synergies with the local companies. The same applies with the investment opportunities, investment promotion pillar, where we provide linkages to investment opportunities in Zimbabwe's priority sector. And also we assist the US investors to navigate Zimbabwe's business environment. So in short, I may say that this is basically the function, but like I said, what I'm going to present is also available to all the potential investors and all those who want to take up the opportunity that are available in Zimbabwe. To start with, it is important to give the economic perspective in terms of the structure of our economy, structure of the Zimbabwean economy. The economy is recovered very well from the negative effects of COVID. And we actually have realized a positive economic growth in 2022 of 4%. And we also are envisaging almost the same or much slightly higher growth. Currently, our estimate is at 3.8, but that figure is being reviewed, taking into account the positive performance that we've realized in the economy in 2023. So we are looking at a growth of about 5% at least in 2023. So you'd find out that Zimbabwe's economy is by and large an agro economy. We have a number of agro industries. So there is very strong linkage between agriculture and our manufacturing sector. And I will be able to lay out some of these linkages when I present the opportunities. Now, when you we have what I can call revolutionized the investment environment framework in the country. You'll be aware that the government of Zimbabwe has established what is called the Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency, ZIDA. Through an act of parliament, we have the ZIDA Act. So that process, it has simplified and given rise to a one-stop investment center in Zimbabwe. So irrespective of whatever you want to do in Zimbabwe, you have one-stop shop. Under the one-stop shop, we expect that you'll be able to introduce yourself, negotiate, and conclude a business deal without necessarily, like what used to happen before, wandering from one office to another. So how have we done that? We've been able to appreciate and understand what are the requirements to conclude the transactions. And we've then been, after we've identified the investment requirements, we then were able to put all the these significant players under one roof and operating as secondments from their parent institutions. For example, you'd find RB's Reserve Bank, Central Bank official, immigration official, ZIMRO official, companies registration, and all those other companies, other institutions represented under the one-stop investment center within ZIDA to facilitate your investments. So currently we've, under that framework, about 17 entities that have been seconded to operate the one-stop investment center. And the feedback we are having is very positive. At the moment, we have gone deep down and being told now it is possible to register your company from wherever you are located. And actually, at some point in time, it would be necessary if the same platform can actually be shared with the our stakeholders like ZIDA themselves, so that they are able to also buttress what they've been able to infuse in the system But with this, we've by and large simplified our investment framework. So you'd find out when you want to invest in Zimbabwe, I can classify investment into 3 types by and large. You have what I can call public-private partnerships, which normally are referred to as joint ventures, which actually reflects the priority project that government is advancing, is enticing the private sector to come and partner in their development. And I'll explain the processes that accompany those. We've also investment in the special economic zones. Special economic zones on their own are a geographically designated, area where we provide a number of incentives, where you can come and set up shop, doing various other kind of activities in the center. And we do provide a number of incentives for you to be operating in that. So you'll find out if you're operating in a special economic zone, you are literally in a protected area, and where you are shielded from what I would call other business risks that may be associated with if you are operating from outside the special economic zones. So it's actually much more convenient, so to speak. But of course, we have provided these incentives because it is the government's intention, guided by a number of objectives, to develop that particular sector. You find out maybe a designation may happen in an area that is very remote, but with a potential for having a lot of labor, a lot of attracting labor. So if the objective is actually to create employment, we may be designating an area in a sector that is labor intensive. So what I'm trying to say is that the designation is informed by the government objective in terms of what it seeks to achieve. Then the last investment type is the general private investment. This is where you identify an opportunity, you register a company, and then you are good to go. You don't need to seek any other authorizations from the government. So that's it. So I will briefly talk about what processes are required if you want to do public-private partnerships, like joint ventures. Ms. Moderator, maybe if my time is up, for just let me know, because I have a lot to share. You just
you have time, sir.
Okay, thank you. So now, in terms of the public-private partnerships, which I referred to as joint ventures, normally these are the projects that, if you read our economic blueprint, which is the current National Development Strategy 2021 to 2025, you'd find that government actually has got a program for infrastructure development. If you read the African development study that has been done on Zimbabwe, they identified that the infrastructure gap in Zimbabwe is about 30 billion over the 5 years period, which is the period for the 5-year development plan. And it's now, in order to close this gap, government has advanced a number of projects and programs, particularly in all the sectors of the economy. And these projects are then what is reflected in our national development strategy. And most of these projects, they do qualify under joint ventures or public-private partnerships. Now, if you want to participate in those projects, you'd find out that those projects, the government would have done a pre-feasibility analysis. They would also have done, in some of the projects, a bankable feasibility study that is done by an independent consultant. The reason why it is an independent consultant with a with a good reputation is basically to bring confidence so that if an investor wants to see the bankability of that particular project, and when he goes through the financial model or what the analysis, he is convinced that the information contained here is correct. It has not been altered. So these are some of the projects that we have actually done the feasibility study, and we are encouraging, we are inviting private sector to come and partner us in the development of those projects. So now when you are interested in such kind of a project, what you do is you participate. Normally, if it is the government that has done the feasibility study, they issue out a tender. And when they issued out a tender, they when you express your intention to participate, then we negotiate a PPP agreement. And normally PPPs, they run for 30 years or so, depending on how we are able to negotiate and agree. And then when that has been done, a PPP agreement is signed. You are then given an opportunity to develop the asset, and then you operate the asset, and then at the agreed period, you transfer the asset back to government. So these are the models that you normally are referred to as BOT, whatever. There are so many different types under that category. Then let me talk about special economic zones. Special economic zones, like I said, so far we have designations. We have special economic zones that is being designated in about 7. We have about 7 designated zones that we are encouraging or inviting participants to come and operate, set up shop in those special economic zones. So here, the investment can be in 2 types. You can come in as an operator, where you actually come and produce products for sale. Or you can come in as a developer, because in some zones that has been designated, you'd find out that there is need for development of off-site and on-site infrastructure. So you can actually come and we enter into an agreement to negotiate the on-site or off-site infrastructure, and then we agree on the ways how you would recover your investments. And mostly the repayment is through those that would be operating in those zones. So yeah, so when we are appraising investments, there is a general guide that we follow through. We have a due diligence that we undertake, and the due diligence is simply to ensure that the partner that we are eventually settling for is the financial capacity to bankroll the project. So this is basically what we would be mostly focusing on when we do our own due diligence. So we may ask you to show us the proof of funding. You want to come and invest in Zimbabwe. Where is that money coming from? How much of it is equity? How much of it is actually going to be borrowed? So things like that is what we would do, what we would do then ask for. So let me stop for now and understand some of your questions that I want to present would actually come through the discussion that we are going to have. So I would stop for now, Mr. Wu, and then give the floor to you. Thank you.
Awesome. Round of applause. Thank you so much. Shared a lot of clarity. Now, I'm just looking for some, for us to have more clarity in terms of the opportunities themselves. So, for example, what are the key sectors in Zimbabwe that offer significant trade opportunities at this current moment?
Okay. Thank you so much for the question. Let me start by saying that when I'm looking into this market, that is the US market, you would find out that And I think that is the reason why there's been interest for government to focus on this market, because currently the volumes of trade within the two countries is very low, and which clearly does not reflect the potential in the two countries. And this is due to a number of reasons. Most of our potential in this market is not known, and we believe that by actually being part of the team here, it should be able to, we should be able to raise the necessary awareness and appetite so that we are able to grow our exports. Because when you look at the current exports, this is concentrated on very small products, which is basically finished products, which is tobacco. That's the main export. Then with the arts and culture products, arts and wood products, among others. And at the same time, we are also importing not so much, but mostly our imports are machinery, pharmaceutical products, among others. So our strategy is then is to have such platforms like this so that we are able to then share what opportunities we have. When we look into the current export basket, export potential we have in the country, we are looking at iron and steel products. We are looking at sugar. We are looking at tea and coffee. We are looking at arts and crafts, leather and leather products, horticulture, floriculture, clothing and textiles. So this is the current basket that Zimtrade is currently, Zimtrade is our export agents in Zimbabwe. So this is the basket that they are currently promoting. And therefore, our strategy here is to basically ride on the current basket and to try to make these products reach out to most parts in the USA. So, like around September, thereabout, we are going to work closely with the chamber. We are going to have another webinar that is going to focus on, that is going to link the exporters from Zimbabwe and importers from, and importing companies from the US. And we are going to identify companies speaking about their products and things like that. So this is our strategy that we thought it's going to bring awareness of the potential that we have. Because you look into the climatic conditions in Zimbabwe. Our tobacco, for example, it has got a unique taste, which is preferred than most tobacco that we find around. And therefore, you'd find out that we should be able to attract significant customers that would be willing to buy our products, among others. So what I'm trying to say here is, this is our primary focus, to try to push as much as we can on this product. But then, coming back to your question, to say, what sectors are we presenting as having opportunities for, opportunities in the area of investing? When you look into like the structure of our economy, we have, and we can leverage very well with the mining sector. I think I would classify the mining sector as the #1 sector, because simply of the comparative advantage that we have over other sectors, over other countries, so to speak. When you look into our mining sector, for example, we have over 60 different minerals that we have. We are known to be the 4th largest country in the world with the largest lithium reserves. we have got about 13 million tons of gold, 2 billion tons of platinum, 930 million tons of chrome, 1.6 billion tons of copper, just to mention only a few minerals. So you can see that with these estimated results we have as a country, there is a huge potential for investors to come, partner government, and exploit. And in most cases, you'd find out that if you are coming in to invest in the mining sector, they more or less fall within the category of private investments. In some cases, yes, we have partnership arrangements with the government, but in most cases, the investors, they come purely on their own. What they simply need to do is they go and get a geological map for Zimbabwe. They get the information in terms of where the resource is found. They do their exploration, and then the Ministry of Mines will facilitate the pegging, and then they register, and then they start exploiting. So this is a huge opportunity that I can put forward. Then also the second sector that also has got a lot of potential, like I said, is the agriculture. We have a lot of potential. When you are talking of agriculture, we are talking about the infrastructure within the agriculture sector. We are talking about dam constructions. We are talking about irrigation facilities. We are talking about things like that. With dams and irrigation, I think these are the most priority, because when you look into what is like the climatic changes are currently happening, you'd find out that there is really necessary need to drought-proof the economy. And drought-proofing the economy, it requires to develop the water bodies and to take water into the crops through irrigation facilities. We also have opportunities in the agricultural value chain. Like I said, our economy is agro-based, so you have opportunities in the beef to leather value chain, cotton to clothing value chain, tobacco to cigarettes value chain, among other things. And then, of course, you also have manufacturing, among the others. But let me just talk about solar energy. It's one of the sector under the energy sector which has got a lot of potential and opportunity, because one of the good radiation we have as a country, and we have actually prepared solar investors quite very well when I look into the current solar investment framework. Firstly, we have been able to identify the sites with good radiation levels. And what we're just waiting for is the investor to come in, identify, we give him the sites, he is able to then establish his capacity, and we are able to assist the investor to invest in solar. And we have also de-risked investment in the solar. Solar framework is actually has got a different framework, which have actually de-risked the investments in the process. Just like as I explained in the special economic zone. Now with solar, unlike what used to happen, currently we are offering a very good tariff, which is 10.4 cents per kilowatt. I think if you compare by country comparisons, our tariff is quite very good to attract investments. And then you are now able to charge the tariff in the currency of your choice, that is mostly in US dollar, which is a stable currency. And then you are paid in that currency, and then you are free to remit, repatriate, and things like that. So yes, I could go on and on. There are so many opportunities in all sectors of the economy, but I just highlighted what I believe to be the main ones. But for further sectors, we can make that information available as well.
exciting things I'm hearing. I suppose the next question here is, what are the government's policies and incentive to attract foreign investors?
Yes, we have an incentive framework that is available in the country. We are looking at incentives. We're talking about tax incentives. We are talking about we have what we call general incentives, and then we have sectoral incentives. For example, if you go to a sector like mining, you would find out that there are sector-specific incentives that are available to the sector, consistent with the need to make it easier for investors to invest in the sector. For example, you would find out that if you are importing capital equipment for use in infrastructure development, that capital equipment comes duty-free. Under what we call a project can be declared a national project status if it is not covered, if that sector is not, if that incentive is not covered under any sectoral incentives, we designate a national project status where we allow you to import your products or capital equipment duty-free, and also if you are operating in a special economic zone, you, for example, do not pay taxes for a period of 5 years. You pay a reduced reduced corporate tax thereafter. But the first 5 years, you are not liable to any type of common taxes or income taxes. So we have a number of incentives that are meant to attract or to make it easier to start your investment in the country. And it's actually a long list of the types of incentives which actually cover the tax incentives, also cover the equipment that is being used in that regard. We would also find out that we do have our exchange control provisions that would also act as incentives for investing in the country. For example, if you are investing in the country, our exchange control framework is such that you are allowed 100% repatriation of disinvestment proceeds. Should you want to disinvest from Zimbabwe, we also allow 100% remittance of dividends to home country without any restrictions. We allow you to operate foreign currency, to open a foreign currency account and operate any currency in a basket of currency that you may be you may choose to. So yes, so these are some of the incentives that I can quickly throw out to the audience.
All right. So in light of that, and I'm seeing I saw a message praising some of those incentives there. But in light of that, how can businesses navigate the regulatory environment and establish successful partnerships in Zimbabwe?
Like I said, we have simplified the investment framework, the investment landscape in Zimbabwe. We've eliminated red tape, we've eliminated bureaucratic processes like what used to happen before. And therefore, the one-stop investment center that I referred to earlier on its own, it is a good starting point, because an investor would no longer need to wander from one institution to the other, looking for information, looking for where to invest. We've established a one-stop shop. So investors, once they register themselves or they register their intent to do business with Zimbabwe, the center, the ZIDA institution, would then partner the investor in navigating all the hurdles that are likely to fall upon the investor. So the burden is actually not on the investor. The burden is on the ZIDA to make sure that any potential hazards that may be available or that may frustrate the investor are cleared out of the way, and be able to ensure that the investment aspirant, the investment proposal is approved at the quickest possible time as possible, so that the investor can still be able to start executing on their investment. So I think the framework that is available at the moment has been set to provide, to assist, to allow the navigation to happen as expeditiously as possible.
Awesome. Are there any specific investment projects or initiatives that international businesses should consider?
So we are talking about specific investment projects. That,
I mean, okay, I yield.
Sorry?
I yield. Would you like me to clarify the question, or?
Yes. Can you clarify?
I mean, you shed some lights on sectors such as mining, agriculture, and what have you. And I just wanted to know if there are any specific investment projects or initiatives that international businesses should consider that could be encouraged. If there are any specific sectors or what have you.
Yes, definitely. What I must say is that we have quite a number of projects that are currently under implementation. Some of these projects, they already been commissioned. They are in the sector of power. I think recently we are still in the process of doing the last stages of commissioning of a power station that is recently been completed. We have also almost 3/4 in terms of construction of what's going to be the largest iron and steel manufacturing factory in Zimbabwe, and I think it's going to be the largest in Africa. So we have also other projects like border development or border redevelopment. We have a number of projects in the road sector, and we have, in an effort to increase to facilitate ease of doing and increase connectivity, we are actually prioritizing construction of roads that link the country to other neighboring countries, being a landlocked or land-linked country. We are facilitating the movement of goods and transport. So we have a number of projects in the road sector. We have other projects in the education sector. For example, you would find out that education is one of the areas that I can consider a low-hanging fruit, in the sense that we have a student population of about 120,000 students. And when you look into, say, for example, our 12 state institutions, they are only able to provide on-site accommodation to about 15,000, leaving a gap of almost like 100,000 without accommodation. So government is also prioritizing, development. So anyone who's interested in real estate developments in the education sector, because this university, they got large tracts of land that can be used for accommodation. So these are some of the sectors that I can quickly point out to be available. You can also talk about other various investments that are happening in the dam construction and things like that. So it's happening in Zimbabwe. We have got a lot of projects going on, and I think it is a good indicator to indicate that the country indeed is open for business and people can come and do business with Zimbabwe, because we have evidence through this project that are already been commissioned, that are currently running, that we are able to execute and to partner with our investors.
Awesome. Now, this is last question on my end, and then we will open up the Q&A. And so what are the potential challenges and how can they be mitigated currently?
Yeah, we do have the challenges, of course, just like any other economy, particularly in Africa. If you're operating in Africa, there are these common problems that we are associated with, and but these are challenges, and they can be managed. So I guess I can say that some of the challenge that we do have is currency risk or exchange rate risk. Obviously, if you come to invest in the country, you would be able to, you should be able to recover your investment, remit it. So sometimes there are challenges with respect to currency risk or exchange rate risk. But I must say that we have provided enough proofing to our investors. When investors are coming, particularly for those projects that are partnerships, are joint ventures with government, we sign what we call a foreign currency agreement framework, which is a further assurance that should there be situations of market failure, a government or the central bank is ready to make sure that you are able to have access to foreign currency at the time when you need it. But like I emphasize, only in the event when there is market failure. But at the moment, you to find that the efforts that are being done by government is to ensure that we have we establish an equilibrium exchange rate that is market determined. And if you are following the developments in the Zimbabwe's economic trajectory, you'd find that we are gravitating towards that. And we should see the market forces being able to operate. But in the event that, you want that assurance, government's prepared to provide that guarantees. And also, when you read our ZIDA Act, which is actually provides the protection to our investors, you'd find out that we have actually emphasized the need to protect the investors, to protect their investments, and also to ensure that their investments are not expropriated. Their investments, they are able to repatriate dividends and profits, disinvestments, all those guarantees are provided for in our statutes, in our legal framework. So I must say, risks, yes, they do exist. They are being managed, and how they are being managed, we are providing more protection to our investors in that sense.
Amazing. Whenever I hear about the steps Zimbabwe is taking towards risk mitigation, especially to entice foreign investors, as an investor myself, that sounds like music to my ears. So the floor is open now for some Q&A if we have any questions that we can ask Mr. Jonah here.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Hugh. This is Eric Kagama, and incredible job in articulating the opportunities in both trade and the area of investment, in Zimbabwe. I think you really did a great job just pointing on those incentives. And I think that incentive, is going to be a great, especially the opportunity zones, right? It's going to be a game changer. And absolutely, mine is going to be a proposal, a live proposal. Hopefully, His Excellency over there is able to communicate to Mr. Ambassador, and Mr. Ambassador able to relay that to the President as well. I think one of those opportunity zones, I'm looking forward to working with, we're looking forward to working with Zimbabwe to having it become, a technology opportunity zone where we're able to attract, very brilliant minds and people with the resource, to domicile in such areas and make it a unique opportunity zone for technology, anything emerging technology within Zimbabwe. So I'm really, I love what I've heard, and the articulation is just amazing. With that said, as Mr. Hugh has already indicated, we open the floor to the virtual audience or people that are watching on YouTube. If you have a question, just shoot us those questions so that we can. But feel free to raise your emojis or just if you have any questions, let's have it.
Yes, Raphael.
Sorry, I was struggling with my mute there. I had a quick question in terms of some of the, I know there's.
Raphael, just a few seconds and introduce yourself, please.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
I think this mic is
Yeah.
Repeat your question again, Mr. Raphael.
Do the different special economic zones like Sunway City, et cetera, do each of them have specific focuses, tech or manufacturing or pharmaceutical, medical technology, or are they all general purpose special economic zones?
Okay, I think that's a very good question. Let me just like as you said, and also as I said, that our special economic zones, they are designated, guided by the government objective in terms of what it seeks to achieve within those specific incentive within those zones. So you'd find out that our special economic zones guided by the government objective, because we are basically, because we're giving a lot of incentives, and we are also trying to promote the development of a certain industry, of a certain sector. So obviously, when you take those into account, you'd find out that it's what I can call a guided development, so to speak. So each special economic zone that has been designated, we've identified the number of industries, or the types of industries, in fact, that we are supposed to be operating in those zones. Like, for example, if you go to Mela, which is in Bulawayo, one of our second largest city, we are promoting industrial, it's an industrial hub where we are promoting light and heavy industries, and also manufacturing. So the same applies to the Sunway City. We are promoting industries like logistics. We are promoting industries like pharmaceuticals, biotech. So yes, so and that information is available to say if you are interested in a Sunway City special economic zone, then these are the type of sectors that we would want you to focus on, so that you're able to enjoy those incentives. So yes, so that information is available for each and every special economic zone that has been designated.
Wonderful
Awesome.
answers. Hugh, let me get you back on stage.
And we have a question here by
Oh, there was a question for the Airbnb. Yeah, I was curious on that too.
So we have a question in the chat here by Nika. Apologies if I butcher your name. And she says, quote, "I would like to know more about Airbnb investment," end quote.
So, sorry, know more about
Airbnb investment.
B&B investment.
Airbnb.
It's
Airbnb.
basically a real estate, but with kind of look at it in an intersection between real estate and a bit of, incorporating hospitality, right? People able to kind of like the Uber for hotels, right? Where personal people are able to maybe put in an investment in real estate and able to turn that property into rentable, a rented property or something like that.
Okay, I got it. So yes, and normally these investments, they I must say that Zimbabwe as a country, we've also have unique ecotourism and wildlife. We also do have very good tourist centers. And you would find out that in most of our tourism facilities, most of the facilities that we have for tourism, they require to be complemented by appropriate facilities being established, so that we are able to, leverage on this ecotourism. So I will start by saying, we have a parastatal, a government parastatal that is called ZimParks, Zimbabwe Parks and Wildlife Authority. They do have a number of lodges that are scattered across the countries in some of the areas where the wildlife are situated, and we have seen a number of investors coming in to get into a partnership with our ZimParks, upgrade and develop those centers and bring them up to modern standards, and then they operate them. And most of these agreements, they are for 25 years. They would be operating. They may agree in terms of profit sharing and it has been a very successful venture, and we've seen a number of investors that are actually happy with that arrangement. So this is one area. If someone, if the audience might be interested, we can facilitate negotiations to get into those kind of areas, which are mostly classified as the PPPs, public-private partnership or joint ventures arrangements that we have done. And we have just processed a number of them, of such partnerships. But when you look into the hospitality industry, in most cases, this is by and large a private kind of investment activity, when like based, guided or leveraging on the ecotourism and wildlife we have, there is need to establish a number of lodges, a number of hotels around the countries at strategic centers, So what normally one is to do is simply to identify an area and then secure a piece of land. A piece of land, mostly it may be coming from our local authorities. They do have designated areas that they have earmarked for such kind of hotel activities. So it's a question of approaching the authority as an unsolicited bidder. So you make your proposal, I want to develop this hotel facility at this point. Can you then avail land to me? So it's allowed as an unsolicited bidder, but that process requires you then to be able to demonstrate that you have the capacity to do so, because otherwise you get the land and then you fail to develop the asset. Or you may just identify land which is being available through, third parties or any person who is having a title, failing to develop the area, the land. You may actually have those people, there are so many you can purchase and then you develop your assets. So when you have the land, then you can develop. It entirely depends on you how you want to structure. If you want to structure it as to structure it like as a corporate, then the ZIDA, if you are a foreign investor, the ZIDA will assist you with registering a local company, which will then own that hotel facilities. And registering a company, it is an activity that, as I say, it can now happen wherever you are located, or ZIDA can do that within 24 hours to register a company. So we can then if you are interested in such an activity, you can approach us, and then we are able to give you a bit of more precise information, where to go, how to navigate, and then we can help you to realize your investment aspiration.
Thank you. We have another question here, and it reads, what is the ease of doing business in Zimbabwe in terms of business registration and incorporation?
Okay, yes, I think as I was making the presentation, I might have referred to the issues to do with the ease of doing business. Ease of doing business, when we try to get feedback from the investors that are already involved, we have improved significantly our systems, which has come as a result of the creation of the one-stop investment center through ZIDA. We have also provided a number of incentives that I have already spoken to. We have also provided protection to our investments through a number of statutes, so that investors are sure that there's no expropriation. We have also simplified or provided further guarantees through our exchange control provisions, which deals with the repatriation of dividends, profit, and things like that. So I think if you put together all those factors, you agree with me that the ease of doing business in Zimbabwe is fairly improved. And that is the reason why we are actually seeing significant traffic coming. It is because of what we have been able to introduce. You find out that your investment is now able to be processed much faster than what it was before.
Okay, so we have another question here on the basis of human capital. The importance that Zimbabwe places on developing human capital, as far as training and skills and what have you.
Yes. Human capital development is at the core of any sustainable economic development of any country. And we have actually transformed our education system from 3.0 to now what you call education 5.0. The education 5.0, it focuses not only on teaching, learning, and research, but it also prioritizes innovation and technological development. So we have added those two elements. So when you look into as a result of implementation of education 5.7, you'd find out that all our institutions of higher learning, they now have incubation hubs and also industrial parks. So with an incubation hub, you can actually promote innovation. You try to prototype your idea. And when it becomes successful, there is an industrial park that is also there at each and every university to test your prototype and to test your innovation. And then when it is successful, you can then commercialize or industrialize. So I think we with our education system, we've actually embraced the human capital development, because the objective is not only to produce, not to produce graduates that end up looking for work, but to produce graduates that are able to create employment through the systems that we have developed. So, and not only that, maybe if we're talking only about universities, we might be accused of, focusing only on the one category of education system of the people that have successfully gone through their education system, but we have also those people that may fail to proceed with their education. And we have vocational skills training centers that has been established across the country. These train you to be able to generate, involve in self-employment activities, so that you are able to generate income for yourselves. And getting into those centers is very easy. There are no restrictions. You go and train in a specific area, that you wood, carpentry, building, all those kind of, skills. So the idea is to make sure that our human capital development moves so that there's no one that is being left behind. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now we have another question here. Are there international rules regarding the Zimbabwe gold-black digital currency?
Yeah, Hugh, we'll allow Raphael to actually open up his mic and ask that, and then when we're done, we'll go to the other Raphael as well.
Okay.
I think it would be better explained if Raphael can get.
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead.
I've been following pretty closely. I have a partner who works with some of the Sunway cities, smart cities, and so we've had our eyes on Zimbabwe for a while here, and been watching with great expectation and excitement about the gold-backed digital currency that Zimbabwe has offered. Do you know if there is any incentives for companies who want to come in and work in the digital offering space to work with that technology, or is that specifically to help with the sort of geofenced local Zimbabwe economy?
Okay, so if I understood your question, you want to come in and partner with our central bank with instruments to enhance the investments in the digital currency, or you are looking
Correct.
at... Okay.
Correct. Community currencies, inclusion currencies, things like that.
Yes. I think what I can say is, yes, we have introduced a product which is available, and I think it has attracted a lot of, appetite in the market. Actually, the news we've been getting is that, the investments, the traffic or the appetite has been overwhelming with the digital.
Absolutely.
Yes. So what I can suggest is, because, this is a digital, this is investment in the digital technology.
Yeah.
And therefore, what I can say is, if you do have any innovative ideas that you think you can propose to us to be able to enhance what is already available, then we can listen to your proposal. Obviously, you should be able to know much better about
and absolutely, sir, if you will oblige me, I think Raphael is a friend of the chamber and a very somewhat pretty active within the tech space and in the Minnesota private sector as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to facilitate. We're going to the chamber will facilitate, possibly a meeting with the embassy and even as we are working towards even having the central bank governors and hopefully in our subsequent roundtable with His Excellency the Ambassador, we might even it's possible for us to even get the to leverage on the buzz and the excitement around that to have the central bank governor also join virtually. And the chamber will do its best, to facilitate, to make sure we're able to communicate effectively. Before we go to Raphael Schranz over there in Austria, the definition of smart investment, and also risk mitigation. I'm really excited about the fact that I'm really excited about this. The fact that Zimbabwe has honed into what we describe, in the chamber here, or universally as smart investment in our approach. Dangling incentives and also having risk mitigation atop of the priority list. So I kudos to Zimbabwe and the vision of His Excellency as well. And we're looking forward for those questions to translate into real investment. And I feel Zimbabwe is is going to become a template of smart investment, and also a country that also is on top of its risk mitigation to make that investment flow a little easier for people to domicile their investments in those countries. With that said, let's go to Raphael Schranz. After Raphael Schranz, I know Hugh. We're going to veer off a little bit from business, and we're going to get to know you a little bit. What makes Mr. Jonah tick? And I'm sure it's going to be an exciting conversation with Mr. Hugh and Jonah here. So, Mr. Raphael, go ahead, please. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Just from my perspective and from my position, so I'm working as a circular economy specialist. I'm self-employed, basically in the sustainability sector that you already have touched upon. And yeah, as stated, I'm from Austria, south of Vienna, and I wanted to tell you great points that you mentioned there. And also what I really liked most was the investor center. I think this is a very good opportunity for investors to have this one-stop shop to get all the information they need. So kudos to you that you did that. I was wondering about the strategies in general that Zimbabwe has in terms of sustainability, circular economy, regenerative agriculture, if there are strategies in place, or if that's maybe a secondary thing in your investment strategy in general.
Okay, you're talking about strategies to sustain the economy or sector-specific strategies?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yes, I think what we have observed is that the country is moving towards food self-sufficiency when we're talking about agriculture as a strategy. And for the first time, because of the situation, a global situation, where we found ourselves and Africa in general that we could not access certain imports like wheat because of the global developments, like the wars in Ukraine. We then were able to focus to ensure that we become self-sufficient. And I must say that these strategies have actually helped. Inward-looking strategies. Now we have been able to have surplus when it comes to wheat. We no longer have any challenge with that. We also have the surpluses, maize, which is the staple food, and therefore we have been able to achieve that within a year of that. And then when you also go to the mining sector, because of the opportunities and the God-given blessings we have in terms of the mineral endowment, the strategy is actually not to allow exportation of raw commodities. So you'd find out that we've banned export of raw platinum, export of raw lithium, export of raw chrome, export of unprocessed diamonds, amongst other products. Yes, the idea is
Yes.
we want to encourage value addition and beneficiation into the sector so that we are able to retain the jobs within the country. So I must say, these are some of the big strategies I can say that we have embarked on, and we've been very successful in those.
Okay, thank you very much for elaborating on that. Thank you very much.
Also, for those who are now joining us, please make sure you're on mute so we can eliminate the background noises, please. Please mute yourself if you're now joining us. Thank you. Awesome. We probably have time for one or two more questions if there are any more.
At the moment, let's just move to the next segment, which is getting to know Mr. Jonah a little bit, get a little personal and his journey and stuff like that. Mr. Hugh, go right ahead.
Yeah, I suppose it's rather tough to pull away from the business mindset and what have you at this point, but I suppose it's important for us to know for someone that's accomplished and successful as yourself, you know, what are those things that led you to government and you know made you see the vital importance of serving your country?
Sorry, I didn't get the question clear. Can you come again?
What are the things that have most inspired you to become a government official?
Okay, yes. You know, the desire to serve my country and also to be able to influence change in terms of seeing actually the upliftment of people through your policy, you know, interventions. I spent most of my career, almost like 17 years in the Ministry of Finance, where I was responsible for policy formulation, working on economic growth projections, coming up with interventions to, you know, eliminate poverty. So what has struck me along all these years is the decision that you make for those few privileged people like ourselves, that like myself is privileged to be at that, you know, in those positions where I'm able to propose. And what has always, you know, guided my, you know, approach is to say, the decision that I'm making, what impact would it have to an old person or someone who is in the remote part of the country who does not have the same influence like I have? So you find out when you are guided by that approach, it means you become responsible in your decision-making process. And so that has been the biggest, you know, drive to see communities being able to be upgraded, to see people graduating from low income to middle income because of the policies, empowerment programs that you might have introduced, because you have an opportunity to influence change in that manner. So it has been. The same applies, like I said, I spent almost 17 years in Ministry of Finance where I was in policy. I also spent almost like 5 years working on project development. It is the same approach. When you are making a decision, which project should we implement or not, you have to be guided by a number of factors. And those factors touch down on the very real people that you are supposed to serve. So it has been quite a journey for me, which has been very successful in my view, being able to be in that position where I have the opportunity to really impact on the lives of the ordinary people.
Okay, so when you're speaking impact, I want to hear about some moments that were really rewarding and inspire you to press forward. So can you share some rewarding moments that you experienced and you were really happy about?
Well, I think when you are a civil servant like myself, a rewarding moment is, I think, measured through the success of what you are trying to do. So when you see the effectiveness of your policy interventions, when you see the projects that you are, selecting for implementation, for example, they are being successfully completed, and they, so I think that is enough reward that you can associate with.
How do you overcome? I think this one is it's a little bit vulnerable, but I think it's necessary, being that many of us here, or all of us here, are either entrepreneurs or investors, or hold some capacity where failure is a common thing, right, that we experience. And being that your decisions impact so many individuals, I'm wondering, in moments where you feel as if you failed, or you didn't accomplish or the results for a policy or something that you've put in didn't go according to plan, how do you pick yourself back up and continue to press forward?
Yeah, well, of course, when you are making certain decisions, you make assumptions that certain things will certain things will take certain things will be in a certain way, so to speak. So when those assumptions do not result in the same manner you have projected them, obviously it affects everything. Effectiveness, where you are seeing you are supposed to be making progress, you're actually going backwards. But there are always, situations where you review your approach, you take into account the developments, and you reorganize and go back to the drawing board and you start off again. So I think that has always been the case throughout the period. There are, of course, moments where things didn't go according to plan, and obviously we had to go back to the drawing board to try to navigate and push things in the direction, steer things in the direction we desire.
Thank you, sir. I believe Mr. Kagama, you had something to say.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hugh, for handling this, brilliantly. And I know there's, as we say in some parts of Africa, the son of the soil, right? And this might catch you off guard here, Mr. Tanaka, but you are someone from Zimbabwe, and I know you probably have a question or two for us. And as we'll give you the opportunity to fire one or two questions in the direction of Mr. Jonah, as a home lad, someone that is a fellow Zimbabwean as well, and I believe Pan-African as well, that shares our ideals. And we give you the opportunity to do that, Mr. Tanaka. I hope I didn't catch you off guard. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, totally fine. And sorry, I hopped on a little bit late, so hopefully I don't have any questions that are redundant. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I guess one question I would have is sort of one area that I've sort of been interested in is in the renewable.
If you don't mind, just introduce yourself for like a second so he gets it.
Oh yeah, happy to introduce myself. Yeah, so Tanaka Chikosi here. So originally from Zimbabwe, from Mutare. Currently live in Washington D.C. My background is in engineering and technology. I'm working in big tech now for a company based out of Silicon Valley, but definitely have a lot of interest and passions around investing in Zimbabwe. And so I think one of the high level questions that I do have is around if we're looking at maybe bringing in a foreign investment group into Zimbabwe to do a renewable energy project or an agricultural project, how is the government thinking about protecting investors when it comes to currency risk or maybe assurances around being able to get forex out in the country? I know that's one big thing that some of the investors that I've been talking about have brought up as a risk. And curious as your opinion on that, or how the thinking of the government is developing there.
Okay, thank you, Tanaka. And if you are in DC, I think we should have an opportunity to meet.
Yes.
Just visit us at the embassy, and we can be able to discuss in detail about your intentions. But coming to your questions, yes, I think we've spoken to those questions, but I'll just re-emphasize them. When it comes to giving those assurances, I've already said that firstly, if you are investing in renewable energy, actually we've come up with a very specific program meant to de-risk investment in the solar, for example. We've actually been able to upfront provide a tariff, which tariff we believe is much higher than what it could have been if you compare in other countries. We are currently giving a tariff of 10.4 cents per kilowatt. And you'd find that before you would have your tariff in US dollar, but you would sell your electricity in local currency, and then you just, be able to participate just like another investor on the auction floor or foreign currency auction floor for foreign currency. And this has been the biggest disincentive for solar, for the renewable energy projects, particularly in solar. So what we have done by de-risking is we have now, because we want to promote investment in the sector, so we have now given a good tariff. We are now able to charge the sell your electricity in US dollars. There's no more involvement of any other currency involved. It's foreign currency through and through, which actually means it's now even more attractive for you to participate in that. And then in addition to that, for some other projects that we have, of course, if you look into our exchange control framework, it provides those assurances that are available, for any investor. But just like any economy, there may be a market, distortions that may happen. So what we have done is, over and above what is already legislated, if investors are not satisfied, our central bank provides what is called foreign currency agreement framework to further give that guarantee that you won't be shortchanged when it comes to access or utilization or access to foreign currency at any time that you might be so interested to have access to it. So I must say that those are some of the measures that are in place to give those assurance.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
And I think you did mention the companies are even given the opportunity to set up different accounts in different currencies, right? Mr. Jonah, if I'm not mistaken, they will have the ability to set up, for like let's say USD dollar account in Zimbabwe for their companies as well, right? Something like that.
Yes, yes, you can actually open a foreign currency account in Zimbabwe, and you are free to operate. Like in this case, when you are operating entirely in foreign currency, you can set up your foreign currency, get your proceeds, and utilize the way you want it. So those provisions are in place.
Awesome, awesome. That is what I call, here in the chamber, we call smart investment and also a smart approach. And most of the things I've heard today aligns with some of the things that we are also evangelizing on. So it's kudos to Zimbabwe for taking the lead in that area. So with that said, I think we're going to open it up, give about a minute. If anybody has any question, if not, I want to nudge it back to Mr. Hugh to wrap things up. Thank you for the exceptional, job, Mr. Hugh. If you can just take a minute to also share who is Mr. Hugh. What is. I know a lot of people are seeing human media behind, on the backdrop. If you could just touch on that real quickly, and then go back to Mr. Jonah, and then we wrap things up. But both of you, as a moderator, thank you, Mr. Hugh said. As I've said already, the founder of both, the human capital and also the human media, for this partnership for us to continue to reach out, to brilliant, minds, if you look at Mr. Jonah as an economist here, he has a background as an economist, to bring in people that will speak in depth, on those opportunities. It could be the technicality of the mechanics of it. Whatever it is, able to basically able to provide sufficient answers in response to those things. So thank you, Mr. Hugh. Mr. Jonah, you've been exceptional. I will reiterate here again. You have been an exemplary. In terms of the way you've engaged the diasporans, and I think this is pretty encouraging. And I'm glad we have the virtual audience and also the people that are watching in line. This is the first, but not the last of it, and we intend to bring in the ambassador here and also other dignitaries, within the Zimbabwean government as well. And don't forget, the Africa Chamber is also on the sideline of the United Nations, World Economic Forum, World Investment, Forum. We're going to have a sideline event which is called the Ideation Summit. Africa is basically for us to shadow big events and also able to curate a space specifically for Africa, able to bring in leaderships within Africa for us to basically put our hands together and able to, as Mr. Jonah has done today, able to communicate effectively. Because what I always say, people have shortchanged Africa in the way they communicate opportunities, and also how those risks have been mitigated, and also other accompanying things, to have people, able to sway people to domicile their investments, in. So now I'm glad, hopefully a lot of countries, will borrow a page from, what Zimbabwe is doing. So we're pretty encouraged with what we're hearing. We are going to maybe subsequently we're able to touch on the diaspora, how countries like Zimbabwe are leveraging the diaspora economy. And we're going to go, hopefully in July, we're able to have, I know everyone is preparing for the US-Africa Summit, like in Botswana. We're going to be back here, at some point, for UNGA. So it's going to be a busy year for everyone. So ours, we're going to be in the chamber. Is going to be reaching out, to Mr. Jonah and Mr. Ambassador, His Excellency, his ambassador as well, to make sure, Zimbabwe is on ground in Abu Dhabi. The diaspora economy is a global economy. Where there are human beings, you're going to see a sizable number of Africans and allies as well that are passionate about the continent. So ours is continue to do what we need to do in the diaspora, and then to complement the efforts, of governments, like the Zimbabwean government in Africa, so that we're able to see a growth, we're able to galvanize those resources, into the continent. With that said, Hugh, and I'll let you wrap things up. And thank you. It has been an exceptional. It has been a brilliant. Both, just hearing both of you engage and the quality of discourse, definitely showcasing the opportunities of trade and investment in Africa, the Zimbabwe edition. So this is not going to be the last, but be prepared and make sure you bring your wives and girlfriends and others next time. Thank you. Hugh, go right ahead.
Mr. Kagama, I believe you said it all. I don't think I have anything else to add to that. Super appreciative of your time, Mr. Jonah. This has been a really encouraging conversation. I think for all of us who had an opportunity to tune in, I think we were all encouraged. I think that we see the potentials and possibilities of Zimbabwe and Africa as a collective whole. And I think that you sharing this opportunity and this being so seamless, this is something that we look forward to continue to cultivate. Because anyone in your position, being so open and so willing to have conversations with us who are, I'll say, change makers, bridge builders, organizations such as us who are able to, I think, inspire and bring change and bring development and bring innovation to governments. I think that we're just very thankful for this union here, and I think Mr. Kagama have shared